5 with Steve in Chorley to talk to Andy now. Steve, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. Just listening to this now and listening to Mr. Burnham trying to take the credit for all that he's done for us. I believe that...
Steve, you've had a dig, mate. Let's get the question in.
And by the way, Steve, you live in Chorley, so I'm not your mayor.
No, I know, and I'm not fighting for me. I've got a compliant ban. I'm fighting for the poor people of the Greater Manchester that are going to be trapped in poverty.
What's your question, Steve, please?
It's a reminder that only 4 weeks ago, Andy Burnham told Alex that if he couldn't buy a new van, if he couldn't afford to comply, he would just have to pay the fine. Now, that was 4 weeks ago. Apparently, according to this morning's report, he's been fighting for us for the last 6 months. That doesn't sound like a man of the people.
Okay, Steve, I think we know where you're coming from. Let's get Andy to answer that. Andy.
Well, people will have to make their own judgment, Mike, but I've been on this show for weeks now, before Christmas, saying that we needed to fight for people to go back to the summer of last year. I said that the government's refusal to give us a hardship scheme was going to cause a real problem. I commissioned research into the price of vehicles for precisely this reason. So it's all okay, Steve coming on from Chorley, giving it the big one. But I'm sorry, Steve, you need to come on and get your facts right next time.
Steve, get your facts.
Steve, he has to buy a new van.
Steve, get your facts right next time.
He told Alex he has to buy a new van. On this show, he told Alex, if you can't buy a new van, you will have to pay the fine. I have that on record.
Well,
Andy?
I was explaining the position that we're in, but we were fighting for Alex so that he could get the funding to get a new van or changes to the scheme. And I'm sorry, I'll say it again, Steve. If you come on giving it a big one, you've got to keep it factual. I have been fighting for people all the way through this because I've never believed the government has given us enough money to do this fairly, and that's just a fact.
Well, if we've never had enough money, why has it got to this stage? Why did you knock it back at the beginning?
Because the government dictates it, Steve. Why are we still
spending money on cameras and signs?
And I haven't done that, Steve. That's another fact you've got wrong.
Last night. The M61 was closed last night.
Steve,
there's another fact you've got wrong. The government has spent that money. Indeed, the government is spending all of the money on this scheme because they're dictating this scheme to us. But just like they did with Tier 3,
make it right.
Just like they did with Tier 3 when they tried to impose that on us, they didn't give us enough money. I mean, you can have your narrative if it suits where you're coming from politically. But I'm saying to you, the government never treats the North properly. It does this all of the time. It imposes housing targets on us and then campaigns locally against the Greenbelt. It cuts our councils and then campaigns against them when they raise council tax. And it's doing exactly the same in the Greater Manchester Clean Air Zone.
Andy, Steve would say back to you, I mean, I do need to move on, that you're now playing the same politics back. That if you knew that there was a dearth of finance available for this initiative, why did you ever go down the road?
We constantly said it, Mike. They were imposing a directive on us. We had no choice, but we kept making the case. But I told you last week that I went down to Westminster to say to the government, lift this legal directive on us because it is not workable with the time frame you've given us and the funding that you've made available. But I said to him, work with us, take the